My name's Neil. I'm 28, and honestly, the only real way to kick this off is to admit that for a long time, I truly believed family loyalty meant something. I figured if you showed up, gave your time, your money, your heart, people would notice. That it would actually matter. But this last Easter slapped me in the face with the truth. I was wrong. I'm the oldest kid by a pretty big margin. My younger brother, Justin, is 22. Dad got remarried when I was 16, not long after we lost Mom. Even now, typing that out feels like getting punched in the gut. Her death basically broke everything apart, and while I was scrambling to keep what was left together, Dad moved on at a speed that honestly still makes my head spin. Within a year, he was dating this woman named Stacy. Yes, Stacy with a C, because of course, and by the time I was tossing my graduation cap, she was already unpacking her stuff into the house that used to be Mom's. It stopped feeling like a family after that. It turned into more of a lopsided blend, where everything somehow tipped towards Stacy and Justin. At the start, I gave it a shot. I really did. I tried helping Justin with his homework, kept the fridge stocked with groceries, even picked up a part-time job while juggling college just to chip in around the house. Stacy always wore this polite mask, but it was the fake kind of nice, the kind where you smile at a cashier without ever actually looking at them. And Dad? He just drifted. He started bailing on my recitals, canceling our movie nights, brushing off the father-son trips we used to plan every spring. Always claimed he was busy. He wasn't. He just stopped showing up. By 20, I couldn't take it anymore. Feeling like an outsider under my own roof wore me down, so I moved out. But even then, I didn't walk away completely. I still showed up for birthdays, still mailed presents, still made those Sunday evening calls without missing a beat. I guess some part of me kept hoping, maybe next time they'll notice. Maybe next time things will finally feel right. Spoiler alert, they never did. This Easter, Stacy decided to put together this big, family celebration. She posted about it in the group chat like it was some epic surprise. Backyard egg hunt, fancy catered food, old family traditions and all that. I rolled my eyes when I saw it, but when Justin asked me personally to come, I figured, sure. Why not? I had the day off, and honestly, a part of me still wanted to believe maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time would feel like coming home again. The day started off, okay, I guess. Stacy immediately slipped into boss mode, handing out orders like she was running a military drill. Neil, you're on backyard duty. Set up the egg stations, wipe down the tables, load the cooler with juice boxes, don't forget the plastic forks. No please. No thank you. Just demands. I didn't argue. Just gave a little smile, nodded, and got busy. Same old muscle memory kicking in. I cleaned the backyard top to bottom, hid the eggs, dressed up the tables, even fixed a couple off-wobbly chairs. When the catering service called saying they forgot the vegetarian dish, I was the one who dashed to the store for a replacement. Dropped $75.64 out of my own pocket, by the way. Never got paid back. Around 3 p.m., people started showing up, mostly Stacy's side of the family, cousins, in-laws, distant relatives. I was the only one there covered in grass stains, sweating through a button-down shirt, while everyone else looked like they just strolled out of a magazine shoot. Stacy's sister greeted me like I was some hired worker. "Oh, you must be the one setting up. You're doing such a good job." She chirped, all bright and fake. It made me want to laugh and scream at the same time. Even my own uncle didn't recognize me at first. Justin gave me a quick side hug, mumbled, "Glad you made it, man," and then vanished with his girlfriend. As the afternoon dragged on, it hit me, nobody had saved me a seat. Not at a single table. I kept telling myself it was just an oversight, that someone would notice and pull up a chair for me. But the longer I waited, the more chairs filled up, and eventually, I was the last one left standing, holding a sad little plastic cup of warm lemonade, pretending not to notice. Finally, Stacy announced that dinner was ready, and everyone swarmed the buffet line, cracking jokes and piling food onto paper plates. I lingered by the folding table where I'd set out the forks earlier, kind of half-heartedly straightening a napkin holder. When it happened, I heard my dad's voice, sharp and cold, cutting through the noise just loud enough to turn a few heads. "Neil," he said, not even bothering to look at me, "you're just a guest here now. Try not to overstep." It was like getting the wind knocked out of me. I just stood there blinking, wondering if maybe I heard him wrong. But then Stacy chimed in, arms folded tight across her chest, smug as hell. It's not your place to run things anymore, she added, practically glowing with satisfaction like she'd been sitting on that line for years. I glanced over at Justin, my baby brother, who used to tag along behind me everywhere when we were kids. He met my eyes, and looked away. Not a word. Not even a shrug. I didn't cry. Didn't yell. I just stood there, feeling like the biggest idiot in the world, clutching that cheap plastic cup, realizing I was the only one in that backyard who didn't belong anymore. I turned and walked into the house. Didn't say a damn thing. Found my bag by the front door where I had left it that morning. And then I started unplugging things. First up, the Wi-Fi router. I had bought it for them last year when theirs broke and, big shocker, no one had even thought to replace it. The backyard speakers? Yeah, those were mine. I had lent them to Justin for his graduation party and, shocker, never got them back. So I packed them up without a second thought. That extra generator humming along to keep the catering trays hot. Also mine. I bought it during a brutal snowstorm last winter and left it with Dad, just in case. I unplugged it and hauled it out to my car like it weighed nothing at all. Something inside me had just snapped. Like years of biting my tongue, bending over backwards, swallowing every slight and every hurt, finally burned out. And I wasn't done yet. I walked to my car slow and steady, trying not to show the fire boiling in my chest. Pretending I was calm, even though I'd just been told, in front of half the damn neighborhood, that I wasn't really family anymore. But crying? Nah. Not for them. Never again. As I popped the trunk and started loading everything in, I caught someone watching me through the kitchen window, Justin. He didn't come outside. Didn't knock on the glass. Didn't even lift a hand. Just stared. I almost laughed right then and there. Maybe he was stunned that I wasn't just gonna slink away quietly like always. Not this time. Once the last item was packed, I climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine, and sat there for a minute, staring down at my phone. I opened this little folder I kept tucked away in my notes app, labeled Shared Expenses. It was basically a running list of everything I had ever paid for that somehow my family liked to forget about. Like the car insurance. Dad had totaled his old car a few years back, and I'd stepped up, co-signed the loan on a replacement, got him a good deal through my policy. He never bothered transferring it. I was still paying those premiums every month, quietly. Out of guilt, I guess. Or maybe just old habits I didn't know how to break. Then there were the utilities. After Mom passed, the house still had my name listed on the accounts as the secondary holder. When they hit a rough patch financially, Stacy quit her job to focus on her wellness, whatever the hell that meant. I agreed to pick up the electric bill for a little while. A little while turned into a full year. I still had full access. Still had control. And the real kicker? I wasn't just paying for the Wi-Fi or covering their Amazon Prime bills. I was also the guarantor on their brand new HVAC system. Their old one crapped out during the worst summer heatwave in decades, and when the contractor said they needed a cosigner, guess who they called? Yeah. Me. No hesitation, either. I just showed up and signed the papers. Even paid the first chunk of it out of pocket to get the work started. And yep, I still had the contract saved. So I pulled up the HVAC billing portal, unlinked my card, and tried to transfer ownership. When the system wouldn't let me because they hadn't made enough consistent payments, I just canceled the autopay instead. Next, I logged into the electric company's site, paused the payments, sent customer service a quick message. I no longer live at this address. Please remove me as a payee. They answered within minutes, saying they'd reach out to the primary account holder. I smiled for the first time all day. Then I opened the insurance app, pulled up Dad's car policy, and deleted my payment info. Sent off a formal cancellation notice, setting the coverage to end at the close of the month. Last step, I screenshotted every single cancellation, every removal, every email confirmation, and bundled them into a neat little email to my dad. Subject line: Since I'm just a guest, here's what I'll stop providing. I hit send. Then I put the car in drive and rolled out. It wasn't even 5 minutes down the road before the phone calls started. First Justin, then Stacy, then Dad. None of them left voicemails. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I drove back to my apartment, parked, and made myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, crusts cut off, just like Mom used to do when I was a kid. I needed something simple. Something grounding. An hour later, Justin texted me. Dude, what's going on? I stared at it for a while, then finally replied. Just a guest. Remember? He didn't text back. Next morning, I woke up to a pile of new notifications. 4 missed calls from Stacy. 2 emails from Dad, one angry, one pretending to be concerned. And a voicemail from my aunt, saying she'd heard things got tense and that maybe, just maybe, I was overreacting. Overreacting. After I busted my back setting everything up, spent my own money, and got told to my face that I didn't belong. But sure. I was the Peterlem. They underestimated me. Again. Later that afternoon, the power at their house went out. I know because Justin texted. Power's off. Did you do something? I waited 5 minutes before replying. You'd have to ask the family. I'm just the guest. 2 hours later, Dad left me a voicemail. His voice was tight, clipped, but there was a crack in it too, like he was finally realizing he'd pushed too far. Neil, he said, we need to talk. I think things got out of hand. Stacy. Stacy shouldn't have said that. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. You know I appreciate everything you've done. Let's talk. I didn't call him back. I needed him to sit with it. Really sit with it. Because this wasn't about some Easter egg hunt or a missing folding chair. It wasn't about plastic forks or a cooler full of juice boxes. It was about all the birthdays nobody remembered. About every ignored effort, every holiday where I sat by the phone and never got a call back. It was about standing in the middle of a house that once smelled like Sunday morning pancakes and bedtime stories, and feeling like a ghost. It was about the little kid inside me, the one who watched his dad move on too fast, who spent years convincing himself if he just tried a little harder, maybe he'd be seen again. And now he finally was. But not in the way he wanted. And I wasn't finished. I let a full 24 hours pass. Not because I was playing some petty waiting game, but because I needed the space. I needed time to think, to breathe. I wasn't going to react the way I always had, jumping to fix things, desperate for a scrap of approval. Not this time. I wanted to be clear-headed, not clinging to some last shred of hope that he'd explain it all away. I needed to hear what he had to say when he didn't have control of the conversation anymore. So the next evening, around 6, I finally called. He answered on the first ring. Neil, he said, almost gasping it out like he'd been holding his breath. Thank you. Thank you for calling. Look, I don't know what Stacy said, or what you think. No, I cut him off, my voice calm but firm. Don't start there. You know exactly what you said. Don't pretend like it didn't happen. Silence. All I could hear was his breathing on the other end, heavy and uneven. I just want to be really clear about something, I said. You called me a guest. Out loud. In front of your wife, your son, and everyone else standing in that yard. You told me I didn't belong. And that was after I spent my entire Sunday, and a good chunk of my paycheck, making sure your party didn't fall apart. Neil, it wasn't about. It was exactly about that, I snapped back. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. He sighed hard, and I could hear that old tone creep into his voice, that sharp, annoyed edge he used whenever I dared push back as a teenager. Like he was the only adult in the room. I think you're overreacting, he said. You went too far, cutting the power, taking the speakers. You're punishing everybody over one sentence. I almost laughed out loud. One sentence. I said, shaking my head even though he couldn't see it. That sentence wasn't a mistake. It's just the first time you said it out loud instead of showing it with your actions. He went quiet again. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. Look, I get it. Things haven't been perfect. But you've always been the strong one, Neil. You always handled things better than Justin. That's why. He trailed off for a second. That's why I leaned on you so much. I figured you could take it. And there it was. The truth he never said, finally dragged out into the open. You thought I could take it, I repeated, letting the words sink in, so you gave it to me. You let her treat me like some hired help. You let Justin coast while I picked up the slack. You never once stopped to ask how I was doing. And now, the minute I stopped carrying everything, suddenly I'm being dramatic. That's not what I'm saying. It's exactly what you're saying. I felt something inside me shift then. Not anger, not sadness. Just finality. Solid. Quiet. The kind of ending that doesn't need a fight, it just walks away. Here's the thing, I said, voice steady. I'm not mad. I'm done. Neil. No, I said firmly. I'm done trying to prove I belong to people who only notice me when they need something. You want the power back on. Pay the bill. You want the car insured. Transfer the policy. The HVAC system. That debt's yours now. I'm not carrying it anymore. I let the silence stretch. Let it settle. You made me the guest, Dad, I finished. So I'm checking out. And I hung up. I didn't block him. Didn't fire off any dramatic goodbye emails. I just stepped out of the role they'd shoved me into. The days after that were quiet. Tense, sure, but peaceful in a way I hadn't felt in years. No more calls. No more guilt-laced texts. I heard through my cousin, the only one who still talks to me, that Easter had blown up into a full disaster after I left. Stacy blamed Justin for not managing the situation. Justin blamed Stacy for stirring the pot. Dad apparently tried to hold it all together, but when the air conditioning gave out midweek during a brutal heatwave, that was it. They had to scramble for an emergency repair. In cash. Turns out, when you pull the one responsible person out of the house of cards, the whole thing collapses. Meanwhile, I focused on myself for once. Took a few days off work, slept until noon, ate good food, cleaned my apartment, took deep breaths. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't weighed down by the need to be the good son, the fixer, the invisible support beam. I was just me. I used to be the guy holding the whole family together with duct tape and denial. Then, about a week later, Justin showed up at my apartment. I heard the knock, checked the peephole, and there he was, standing there looking sheepish and sweaty, like he'd been pacing back and forth in the hallway for way too long. "Hey," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "You could have texted. I figured you wouldn't answer," he mumbled. I didn't say anything. Just leaned against the doorframe and waited. After a second, he shifted awkwardly and said, "I didn't know. About everything. The payments. The catering. The insurance. I didn't realize how much you were doing." I crossed my arms and stared at him. "You didn't care to know," I said plainly. He gave a small, almost guilty nod. "Yeah. I didn't. I just got used to it. You always handling everything. I guess I thought you liked it." "Did I look like I liked it?" I asked. He gave this faint, embarrassed smile and looked down at his shoes. "No. Not really." There was a long, heavy pause. But for once, he wasn't here to argue. That was new. "I talked to Dad," he said finally. He's being Dad. Blaming Stacy, trying to guilt you for abandoning him." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I told him he was lucky you stuck around as long as you did." That almost pulled a smile out of me. Almost. Then he added, "I want to fix things with you. Not for them. Just us." I studied his face. For the first time in a long time, there was no smugness there. No entitled little brother grin. Just honesty. "You want to fix it?" I said. "Then start by not needing me to carry everything for you." He nodded without hesitation. "Fair." I sighed and stepped aside, pushing the door open wider. "You want some water?" He let out a shaky breath, like he'd been holding it the whole time. "Yeah. That'd be great." We sat down at my kitchen table, and something shifted between us. Not healed. Not forgiven. But cracked open, just enough to let the air move again. I knew Dad would keep calling. I wouldn't be surprised if Stacy tried to send some guilt-drenched email about rebuilding trust. But I was done playing along. This time, the guest had packed up and left for good. Justin and I talked for almost 2 hours that night. Not just about the Easter mess, but about everything, the years of imbalance, the quiet resentments that festered under the surface. The way I always felt like the backup plan. The filler son. The one holding everything together while Dad and Stacy treated Justin like some limited edition collectible. To his credit, Justin didn't get defensive. He didn't throw out excuses. He just listened. "I think I was just lazy," he admitted at one point, running his hands through his hair. "It was easier to let you carry everything. And I figured, if nobody was stopping you, it must have been fine." "That's the Peterlem," I said quietly. "No one ever asked if it was fine. They just assumed it was." He nodded, slow and heavy. "I'm sorry, man." And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed him. For once, I wasn't talking to Dad and Stacy's golden boy. I wasn't talking to the kid who used to borrow cash and forget to pay it back. I was talking to my brother, the one who used to sneak candy into my room during finals week, who used to beg me to stay up past midnight to play Mario Kart. The version of him that existed before all the favoritism twisted everything sideways. I didn't say, "It's okay." Because it wasn't. But I said, thanks. And for now, that was enough. The next few weeks rolled by quietly, uneventful in the best possible way. I went to work, came home, watched old movies I hadn't seen since college, cooked real dinners instead of grabbing fast food between crises. My apartment stopped feeling like a crash pad and started feeling like an actual home. It was the calmest I'd felt in years. Meanwhile, Dad kept trying. At first, it was subtle. A forwarded meme. A random shared calendar invite to a family brunch that I declined without a second thought. Then came the apology texts, each one more desperate than the last. We were all stressed that day. You know I didn't mean it that way. You've always been part of this family, Neil. Please don't do this. You're tearing us apart. That last one actually made me laugh. Me? Tearing them apart? I wasn't the one holding them together anymore, that's all. I wasn't the glue. I wasn't the fixer. I was done. He didn't reply after that. Then, 3 weeks after Easter, the final straw landed. Dad sent me a long, rambling email, not to apologize, not to take ownership, but to guilt-trip me. Stacy is heartbroken. Justin's been upset. You've made your point. But maybe it's time to stop punishing everyone. Punishing. That word, punishing, lit a fuse inside me. Because let's be clear, I hadn't done any of this to be spiteful. I didn't flip the switch to cause pain. I did it because it was the only way to finally be heard. To break the cycle. To remind them that I wasn't just some silent, reliable afterthought in their lives. But apparently, standing up for myself, that was punishment in their eyes. So I wrote back, you want to talk about punishment? Let's talk. For 10 years, I paid your bills. Covered your car insurance. Helped keep a roof over your head. I bought groceries when you couldn't. Paid Justin's college application fees when he couldn't scrape it together. Lent Stacy money for that wellness retreat she never bothered paying me back for. I wasn't just your backup wallet. I was your backup planner. Your backup therapist. Your backup everything. I organized birthdays. Bought decorations. Called every single Sunday for years without fail. Meanwhile, you forgot my birthday. Twice. Last Christmas, you handed me a $25 gift card like an afterthought while Justin unwrapped a brand new laptop. Because, in your words, I already had a good setup. And then this Easter, after I planned, paid, set up, cleaned, and smiled through the entire thing, you stood there, in front of everybody, and called me a guest. You don't get to call my boundaries punishment. You don't get to hurt me for years and then act surprised when I finally walk away. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine. I ended the email with one final line. I wish you well. But I'm done. And I meant it. I didn't sit around waiting for a reply. Didn't refresh my inbox like some desperate kid hoping for scraps of affection. I archived the thread, blocked his number for my own peace of mind, and walked away. And here's where it got interesting. 2 months later, my phone buzzed. Justin. When I picked up, his voice was low. Careful. Dad moved out, he said. What? I blinked. Stacy kicked him out last week, he said, like he could hardly believe it himself. Apparently, once Stacy found out Dad had been lying about the HVAC payments, that he'd just been ignoring the bills after I canceled everything, she lost it. He thought I'd cave eventually. Thought I'd step back in and clean up the mess like always. When the final notices started showing up and the repair guy came around warning about liens on the property, the whole thing exploded. Stacy blamed him for everything. Said he should have never put that responsibility on me in the first place. Now she says that. I thought. Just inside. Look, I'm not defending her. She's still Stacy. But I guess without you there as the buffer, they finally fell apart. He was quiet for a second, then added, he's been crashing at Uncle Peter's place. Talking about selling the house. I leaned back in my chair, stunned. All that, I muttered, because of one sentence in the backyard. Justin let out a dry laugh. Yeah. Guess you weren't just a guest after all. After that, we stayed in touch. Slowly. Casually. He came by a few more times. We grabbed lunch once or twice. And for the first time in a long time, he actually asked about my life. Not about what I could do for him. Just, me. And on my birthday, he showed up with a homemade cake. Chocolate with raspberry filling. Just like Mom used to make. I didn't even know he could bake. Figured I owed you one, he said, scratching the back of his neck. For all the birthdays you covered. I won't lie and say everything magically healed overnight. It didn't. Some wounds don't close neatly. They just stop bleeding after a while. But for the first time in a long time, I had peace. And that was enough. As for Dad, he never replied to my final email. But 3 months later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. I sat down and opened it slowly. "Neil," it started, "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve it. But I read your email 100 times. You were right. About everything. I got used to you fixing things. And when you stopped, I didn't know how to function without you. That was my failure. Not yours. I'm sorry. I don't know if we'll ever talk again, but I hope someday you can remember the good parts of us. Because I do. Dad." I sat there holding the letter for a long time. Then I folded it carefully, placed it in a drawer, and walked away. Not angry. Not triumphant. Just free. Because the truth is, sometimes the most powerful kind of revenge isn't loud. It's not a screaming match. It's not burning bridges in a blaze of glory. Sometimes, it's silence. It's walking away. It's saying, "You don't get to hurt me anymore." And meaning it.